A very warm and good morning to all of you. It gives me immense pleasure, and we feel honored to have all the thought leaders joining us from across the country and outside for our digital transformation conclave. On behalf of GovConnect team, Department of IT, Government of Odisha, and our partners, I welcome you all. As we all know that this has been a continuous journey on organizing forums on digital transformation, with many of you supporting us as our constant force and mentors. Our efforts have been to bring all the key stakeholders on one platform to discuss, brainstorm, and cull out some practical lessons of best practices on various government initiatives, and digital transformation remains the key. During the day, we'll have around 40 plus speakers from across the country with 5 sessions, fireside chat, and more than 300 distinguished delegates joining us from across the geographies. I would like to thank Manoj Mishra sir for providing us support and showing confidence in us to build this mega virtual conclave. As Manoj sir is the program mentor also for this conclave, and his department, which is the Department of Electronics and IT, is our host partner for this conclave. Thank you, sir. I would also like to thank our partners without whom this event would not have been possible. So our IoT partner is Tata Communication, our cybersecurity partner is Fortinet, our data partner is Enterprise DB, and our supporting partners are NIC and Punjabi Chambers of Commerce. With this, I would like to welcome Dr. Rajshri Datta Kumar, Executive Director, Punjabi Chamber of Commerce, to give an introductory note. Thank you once again. Welcome, Dr. Rajshri Datta. Over to you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Fahim. Am I audible?
Yeah, yeah.
Am I audible? Yeah, yeah. So thank you so much, Fahim, and I really thank the team, GovConnect and Department of IT, Odisha government for giving us this opportunity to talk and to brainstorm, to learn all about digital transformation. And digital transformation, it is no longer a big jargon now. It is like it's a form of life, it's a practice. I thought as an introductory note, I would like to um, sir, I welcome all of you, and I would like to talk as a citizen, as a citizen that is little partially empowered, partially yet to be empowered. So I would like to highlight just few points. These are all mentioned in the public documents. When we are talking about creating an ecosystem which is all digitally transformed. It's basically the digital governance. If we talk from the perspective of government or our expectations as citizens, it is all about creating an ecosystem that is founded on a digital governance framework. The other is as a citizen, how do I make use of the infrastructure that is available? So the digital infrastructure is very important, which can be served as a utility for all the citizens. So that is something that we have to definitely talk about. And there are many initiatives that are happening across. And India is a beautiful country. We have our own set of challenges. A challenge that the northeastern geography would face will be very different from a Leh and Ladakh or down south, and some states are progressive and some states are yet they are trying to do that. So best practices, these forums definitely serve as a learning forum for all of us to learn something, and then we go back, we implement, we replicate, and we are able to scale also. So that's the beauty of any initiatives that needs to be talked about today, I believe. The other is if the digital infrastructure is there, how am I as a citizen, how my capacity is built, what kind of capacity building exercises that are happening. So that needs to be talked about. As a citizen, I do not know, because majority of Indians are staying in the rural context, and I'm sure it is applicable to a country like Bangladesh also. We have an esteemed speaker from Bangladesh, so that's where I thought I'll include that also in my mention of the Indian context. Now the third is. It is really important that we have apps, we have services, but how are we going to uh, have a localization, a local experience to put the entire services, the applications in a local context so that it makes sense for a farmer or for a fisher person, in a coastal in the coastal India, or also from somebody who is in the hills. So it makes sense, and and that's where I think the startups they have a major huge role to play. The industry needs to be more proactive. We cannot, in a crisis situation like COVID, we cannot just have an app that only talks in English or Hindi. People may not relate. So that's something that we really need to think about it. The other would be leveraging on the novel technologies. We have such 3 years back, down the 3 years back, we would always call them the next generation technologies. These are the technologies that we have been using, and this blockchain or AI or the robotics, process automation, RPA, and then the IoT. So how are we going to leverage on this on the opportunities that are available in terms of getting the right kind of data through IoTs, then mining the data through AI? I mean, I'm not an expert at all, but something that I have done before. So and then also the blockchain, how these records are maintained and how they are like sort of sealed and frozen. So there is no such manipulation or just doing anything. So the malpractices can be arrested, and they have been arrested in a big time. And how these blockchain technologies have been used for our financial technology, creating that kind of ecosystem where people are going cashless. The villages, everywhere we are going cashless. If you go to a vegetable vendor, the person also has, I mean, is ready to accept a payment, digital payment. So that is what digital transformation has done to all of us, each of us, and it has touched upon all of us in our own ways. Definitely, COVID has tasted the what do you call that, the mantle there itself, and the result is for all of us to see. That was one thing. Now when I talk about and it has also given a lot of credibility to, when we talk about the global trends, it has definitely given a lot of credibility. But very important for us, amongst the initiatives that we are we are implementing, we are floating, we are working on that. It is really important for all us to really talk about on the data security. The data is everywhere. So how are we helping, or how are we securing our citizens with the kind of filters or the standards, or the what do you call that? How do we arrest the breaches also that are going to happen? That is inevitable. So these are few points that I thought we should uh, talk about, and I'm sure we have such august panelists, for at least for the introductory session. We have such a wonderful panelist here. So I look forward to learning from all of you, sir. And this is the content that I could set. And I thank you, Fahim, for inviting me to, to be part of this conclave. And with this, I think I would be very happy to welcome our next keynote speaker, Dr. Rajendra Kumar. Dr. Rajendra Kumar is an Additional Secretary, Ministry of Electronics and IT, Government of India, and digital transformation is basically, that's their job, and that's what they have been doing. They have been doing it with, across the ministries as well as all the states that they have been working on. And it is indeed a pleasure and honor for me to welcome you, sir. I welcome you. Thank you so much. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, and to everyone. I hope I am audible and visible.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So when we talk about digital transformation, let me begin by saying that as we have seen over the last 2 decades, more than 2 decades now, technology has been a great enabler for transformation, for reforms in a number of areas, including
I guess some glitch. uh, at Fahim. Am I audible? I can just see Manoj sir, Vidyasagar sir, Jayesh sir on it. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are
Yes,
audible.
you are.
I think we have lost Dr. Rajendra Kumar. I think his network is perhaps not working. So, uh, so let me, in the meanwhile, let me welcome all of you, sir. Uh, so, Manoj sir, welcome. I welcome you and I thank you for just joining us and giving us all kind of support to make this national conclave happen, and bringing so many thought leaders, think tanks from across India is it's not easy, and it requires a lot of commitment and dedication. So we thank you for that. Thank you so much, sir. And I also welcome Shri Vidyasagar Reddy. The Vidyasagar sir, welcome. We have heard you before in our previous association, and it is wonderful to have you on board. And I'm sure you will be able to throw some light on the IT initiatives that are happening, as you're very closely working and you're at the helm of it. You're a man of action there in AP. So I welcome you again.
Thank you.
Yes, Jayesh, good morning, and I welcome you. And Jayesh sir is a man of few words, but Jayesh sir has so much to say, and he's man of action again. And he's one person who is being respected across all the states that we have been working with, and they have such wonderful. They look up to you for your initiatives, and he just implements. There is a thought that goes, and he brings people, and he does that. So thank you so much for for coming and joining us here at this forum. And Anir, Mr. Anir Chowdhury, he's from Bangladesh, and Anir is one of those. Core members that was responsible to set up the entire e-governance infrastructure in Bangladesh way back in 2010 or 11 or 12. That was the time when Bangladesh was gearing up. So there is a long association that we have with Anir, and Anir, when we went to Bangladesh, it was his team, the UNDP team, the Access to Information team, that actually did a lot of good work. They're still doing good work, and COVID was something that was really handled well by his team and the government of Bangladesh. So I welcome Anir, I welcome you, and I also welcome our Honorable Minister, uh, Sir. Thank you so much for joining us, and it is your passion. It is your passion that clearly shows when you attend the event with giving so much of time, and also trying to understand what is required for your people. And it is also important that you you hear all of them, and then what you have done, it will be really nice to also hear from you. And so I welcome all of you again, and thank you so much for this. Now,
Thank
my
you.
next, yes, I thought if we have lost out on Dr. Rajendra Kumar and there is nobody, I'll straight away ask if NSN Murty is here, then I'll straight away ask him to join. Otherwise, sir, could you please give briefly introduce yourself? I'll start with Manoj sir. Manoj sir, can you just briefly, quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, namaskar, Rajendra ji. Um,
Thank
uh, you have done a wonderful and long introduction for all of us. I must congratulate you and the entire team of GovConnect who have done all the work. We have only provided from Government of Odisha moral support and whatever little consultation that you require. I have to congratulate you to bring in such an erudite team to this panel. I look forward to hearing rather than talking about this. My department minister, Honorable Tusharkanti Behera, has already joined. I must tell you that he's one of those rare ministers with, he's from IIT Kharagpur, helming the affairs of IT, and a very young, dynamic leader, and we're very privileged to have him on board. I think I look forward to the panel discussion from there. Thank you so much.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, sir. Can I request Shri J. Vidyasagar Reddy, sir, to briefly introduce yourself, because we also have our moderator, Mr. Nisan Murty. So I thought I'll introduce all of you first, and then I'll hand it over to Mr. Anderson. Yes, sir.
Sure. Good morning, and thank you for having me here. It's a great pleasure to be part of a panel discussion like that, especially with distinguished members. Some of you we've been through this before. Others I look forward to discussing with you and sharing our common stories as well as new insights to help with the digital transformation of our country as well as our state governments. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir. Jayesh, sir, the Principal Secretary, Department of IT, Telangana. Sir, please introduce yourself.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Respected Minister of IT from the state of Odisha, Shri Behera ji, my fellow panelists, all the attendees, greetings to everyone. My name is Jayesh Ranjan. I'm the Principal Secretary for IT and Industries in the Government of Telangana. Telangana, as all of you would know, is a new state which came into being only in 2014. But in the past 7 years, we have been able to initiate a number of very forward-looking and very path-breaking technology-enabled solutions in different government verticals. And the last 2 years, particularly the last 1.5 years, which have been impacted by the pandemic, we have been able to use this opportunity to do something even more useful for the people. And when my turn comes to speak, I'll be giving a few examples to showcase what we have been doing in terms of digital transformation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Can I request Anir also to briefly introduce yourself? Welcome, Anir.
Rajeshri, good morning. Good to see you.
Yes.
Honorable Minister, distinguished panelists and participants. I'm glad to be here. My name is Anir Chowdhury. I think Rajeshri did an introduction already. But I've been at the helm of digital transformation in Bangladesh since 2007. So for the last 14 years, from the Prime Minister's office, Cabinet office, and the ICT ministry. So it's a collaboration across these 3 different ministries for the entire digital transformation journey of Bangladesh, which I'll talk about, but I'll talk about it from a non-digital standpoint, how the digital journey is actually facilitated by non-digital mindset transformation. So I'll talk about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anir. So it is indeed an honor and my pleasure to welcome the Honorable Minister Tushar-Kanti Behera ji. Sir, I welcome you, and Mr. Manoj Kumar, sir, has already given a introduction about you. So if you could just kindly throw some light on your passion about here on this forum, and then I'll hand it over to Mr. Anderson.
A very good morning, one and all. I think this GovConnect Conclave, this is a perfect platform for exchange of ideas regarding e-governance and other public policies related to IT and other things. And also, since in this panel discussion, all the esteemed dignitaries are having vast experiences. So I think I will have to learn you all, and I have to learn from this platform and from other dignitaries as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking your time out. And I welcome our moderator of the panel discussion, Mr. Innocent Murty, our mentor, our go-to person in the crisis situation. He's the partner, PwC, and a passionate a passionate coach and mentor who could talk about smart cities and digital transformation. That's something that we have been always been hearing from him. So I welcome Mr. Innocent Murty to take this conversation forward with our August panelists. And thank you so much for coming and joining us.
Thank you, Rajshri. So, can we start the panel, Rajshri?
Yes, Innocent. Yes.
Thank you. Good morning, all, and thank you for joining this session today. This is a panel on how do we reimagine the future using technology for a better service delivery mechanisms in the state, in the city, or for the last mile. So that was the whole concept, and why all esteemed panelists introduce themselves. So what I'm going to do is, I think we have about 60 minutes to discuss this. I will start with about 2 minutes about what we believe is the transformation that is going on, and then I want all of you to actually, there's a set of 2-3 questions that I have written. I'll take your permission to ask those questions, and so that everyone can actually give their views how they are actually doing it from their respective state government's standpoint. Uh, so I call this current what you call, due to the pandemic and due to the generational change, I call it as a restless country right now. So everyone wants everything in an app, and by click of 3 buttons, that should be delivered, or a transaction done and delivered on time at their doorstep. So I think we the kind of changes that the e-commerce platforms have brought into the place have also now slowly pushing the governments to also work in the same kind of a urgency, and I'll say not just the urgency, but an on-demand requirement. So if I ask for it, I should get it for it. Whenever I ask for it, I should get it for it. So that's the kind of new normal which is getting defined. So what I wanted to actually start with, I'll start with Manoj sir, you, and good morning. I wanted to actually ask you from your own experiential self, how does this new phenomena of how the digital being a disruptor and hence creating additional value add in the last mile or in the first mile service delivery mechanism to the citizens? How's Odisha as a state, because you are doing a lot of pioneering stuff. So I keep on exciting. I'm from Bhubaneswar, by the way. So I keep on actually thinking about that. So how is that the state is doing it? What is that? One of your experiential learning.
Thank you so much, Murty. Good to know that you are from this place. We do, in fact, in the entire country, if 3-4 states which will come across as the pioneer states in the digital space, I think those 3 of them are represented here. Jayesh sir always leads us from front, and we learn a lot from Andhra, Telangana, the erstwhile combined Andhra Pradesh state. When we are talking about digital transformation, I would not go to the extent of saying that we have achieved in the entire country. It is a work in progress, and transformation in general, it is not incremental. So what we do, we have been hearing since last 15 years, governments have been doing e-governance by changing processes, doing a little bit of digitization here and there. But when we are talking about transformation, then it talks about the entire ecosystem. And the entire ecosystem can only be transformed when everybody who is a stakeholder contributes and takes it to the farthest. The state governments are doing their bit. The push from the central government has been immense in the last 4-5 years. So if you are talking about process reinvention, where the manual has gone into digital, where people can apply online, people can get certificates online, those things have been done. It is a thing of the past. But what is important is that once you do a process reinvention, whether that is the end of it, or have we really attended the expectation that people have from us? How do we know that? And that is where I would like to give an example from my state. We have started in 2019 when this current government under Honorable CM Naveen Patnaik ji and Minister Honorable Tushar ji took charge. Honorable CM declared that nobody in the state, no citizen should come to the government offices unless it is mandated by the constitution or by the law. So, which meant not only a digital transformation in terms of making it online, but also create an infrastructure which is slightly hybrid by nature, because we know that part of the citizen, half of the state, still are not on the digital space. No matter how much we say the country is not in the metros, the state is not in the capital only. We are a population of about 4.5 crore people, and I can admit in this forum and everywhere that I don't think the government digital services have reached even 50% of the population. So what we have done is now we have created at each Gram Panchayat, we are creating something called as a Mo Seva Kendra, a brick and mortar place where the service can be given so that people will not have to travel up to the block headquarter or the district headquarter or the state capital to avail those services. So when we are talking about digital transformation, we do a lot of things. I can give an examples. I think all my senior colleagues will also do the similar explanation of the examples that we are doing. But what we are looking at actually is that once we have completed this process reinvention, the business process reengineering, what we are looking at is a real mega push into the infrastructure side. Now, unless internet is available everywhere, no matter whether the jam model is working or not, it is not reaching at the last mile. Come with that, not only there should be internet and mobile services available everywhere, but also people should have a device or a place where they can consume. Now, to expect that everybody in the country or the state will have a mobile device or a tab or a laptop to consume government services, I don't think we are there yet. So it will take time. We are in the process. I think last 4-5 years, all states and the center have really made it a big push. We are doing a lot of laying of optical fibers in BharatNet. So we almost have reached each Gram Panchayat now in terms of providing internet. But to go to the transformational stage, truly to say that we have transformed, then we have to tick all the three boxes, not only the process, but also the infra, and then taking continuous feedback to improve ourselves. So I think that is the experience that Odisha has for now.
Great. I think what I clearly understand from your from the discussion is I think the backbone infrastructure is the most important. I think you are putting that properly in place first to ensure that the quality of service delivery is maintained when you roll out the transformative part of it. And that's a very good way of doing it. And inclusion of all the stakeholders. And I think that's another important. I clearly remember Bhubaneswar doing during the smart cities the maximum amount of citizen consultation when it came first in the entire round. So, and that was very beautiful stuff which was done. So very appreciated across the globe. Jayesh Garu, I'll come to you next. Telangana is known for a lot of fuss. Okay, so whether it is a drone-based delivery, or whether it is to do with the statewide app, whether it is to do with the healthcare for all. So what's the next big thing that you are actually planning to do as the citizen service delivery, which you may want to actually call it transformative first in the country, or even if it not the first in the country, but at least which is as your prime most important. And we know that you have been doing a lot of great work, so wanted to pick your brain into that.
Thank you, Murty Garu. So I'll use an example to showcase what we have write out, what is our line of thinking, and I won't be surprised if this is indeed a first in the country. So this is an initiative which was launched in July last year, and as we all will recall, that was the time when the lockdown was at its harshest. Practically everything was closed. No one was permitted to come out. But obviously there were requirement of citizen services even in those tough times. So that gave us an idea on how do you re-engineer some of the important citizen services using technology so that the service is available in a concept which is called anytime, anywhere. You don't have to visit any place. It can be made available from anywhere, and it can be made available anytime. And we tried it out initially in the transport department. So this initiative is called FEST, F-E-S-T, Friendly Electronic Services in Transport, and it is a real re-engineering project which we have done using AI, ML, big data, deep learning. So typically in Telangana, 55 services are offered by the transport department, and these fall under 4 major categories. All of us know these, but just for setting a proper context, I'm mentioning these in just a minute or so. So most of them are So one category is driving license services. We require either the license or a duplicate license, or change of address, or sometimes we surrender the driving license. So lots of driving license services are there. Then there are learner license services. Sometimes we seek a new learner's license for an expired LL, or LL for an additional class of vehicle, and so on and so forth. Some services pertain to the vehicle itself, which are basically registration services. Typically, you get a clearance certificate or change in address and stuff like that. And then there are permits. You require new permits, duplicate permits, renewable of permits, temporary permits, special permits. So all put together, 55 services are offered in the transport department. Now, if you just evaluate the processes, let us again look at driving license. How is the driving license renewed? So the typical process is that the citizen carries his existing driving license and visits one of the RTA offices, the transport department offices. A form is filled, the form is signed, submitted, a fees is paid. Then an important step there is that someone takes your photograph. And once the photograph is taken and your form is collected, you are asked to go, and your new driving license is sent to you by post. I mean, this is the process which is followed in Telangana, and I imagine this will be the same everywhere. Now, it happens in a very intuitive way, but it also causes lots of problems. One is that there is physical rush at the offices. When you go to any RTA office, you will find hundreds and hundreds of people queuing up for these kind of services. And obviously, it's all very non-transparent. You submit something, but you don't know when will it come, what will happen. There's no real value addition by the department. It just collects a form from you, gets a picture taken, and obviously this interface happens only on working days and during the working hours, which are typically from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So all this is not very user friendly by any standards. So the question which we asked was that obviously during the pandemic, no visits were allowed, offices were closed, but driving licenses were getting expired. So how do you ensure that driving licenses are renewed? So without ensuring that a person visits the office, can the driving license be renewed? So we decided to imagine a scenario that the driving license can be renewed without any personal visit through an app, anytime, anywhere, 24 by 7, 365 days, but without compromising the process and the accuracy. We don't want to shortcut any of the processes. So what we did was, and this is something based on our earlier experience, we call it real-time digital authentication of identity, RTDAI. So normally people use Aadhaar or biometric, etc. But in many cases, we know that Aadhaar cannot be used beyond its permissible usages. Biometric at home, for sure, you don't have access to devices, etc. But your image is always available. So we had done a small pilot very successfully for helping the pensioners, and we decided to use the same principle for transport department services also. So we have created a 3-factor authentication system. Now, what it means is that suppose I am the user, I have to reapply for my driving license. So I come before the app, the camera is open, my live picture is taken, and any captured picture which is already there in the database of ours, in the government database, we match your live picture with this captured picture. But before we do the matching, a liveness detection test is done, whether I am really a live person whose picture has been captured or whether an image of my image has been taken. So there is an AI-based liveness check. Then there is a match between two images, my live image which I gave just now, and the image which is stored, where deep learning based image comparison is done. And of course, all the demographic information that this picture has in the background, that is also captured. So my ID, my name, etc., etc. And then there is a ML based demographic comparison. So 3-factor authentication using AI, ML, and deep learning. And as I said, these are all state of the art technologies, but lots of effort has gone behind it. So for example, we have engaged a company to write the algorithm for this big data and machine learning matched for the demographics. And this particular algorithm's source is practice with almost 2 billion Indian names. Because as you know, Indian names are very peculiar, and unfortunately we don't spell our names very accurately. My name, for instance, would be spelled in 10 different ways, in 10 different databases. But this algorithm captures all these minor spelling variations. Similarly, the liveness check, when I am giving my actual picture, whether I am a live person, a living person or not, that again has been developed using an algorithm, again created by an Indian company, which is typically utilized by banks when they open new accounts. And technology for the deep learning based photo comparison that we have sourced from a global MNC. So multiple kind of advanced technologies have been used, and the way in which we have used these technologies, they have completely digitally transformed the traditional process of obtaining transport services. So the whole process is now paperless. No form is submitted, no paper is submitted. So by doing this paperless thing, we have in a way contributed to green governance. Similarly, citizens have got empowered digitally. They have to just access a phone or a system and participate in this transaction. We have made it very inclusive, demographically, linguistically, technologically, everything is included. Last mile connectivity is ensured because you can do this anytime, anywhere, and you don't have to be in Telangana when this activity is happening. You may be a citizen of Telangana, but even if you're living in the United States, you can access this service. And the example in the last few days, today is 17th, I just got some data. Every day, approximately 400 people are using this just to renew their driver's license. On the 15th, 405 people used. On 14th, 415 people used. 13th, which was a holiday, 232 people used, and so on and so forth. And this has been widely appreciated. Even the technology usage has been recognized. We have won excellence awards into 3 national kind of events. But this one example is very symbolic of how potentially technology can be used to completely re-engineer the way citizen services are delivered and make it user-friendly, paperless, extremely hassle-free and convenient for the citizens.
Fantastic. I think really nice initiative. I was expecting something which is forward looking only, and that's what you actually shared with us, Jayesh Garu. Thank you so much. Vidyasagar Garu, I'll come to you next. Andhra Pradesh is another state which has always been number one for a very long time. So all the first, and I actually spoke to you almost like about 2-3 months back, and we were discussing a lot of other stuff. So moving forward from there, so that time we were actually talking about data centers and co-location and services and stuff. Is there so? My again next question is: you have developed the architecture. There is a statewide architecture, enterprise architecture. There are service delivery mechanisms on the ground, which is actually delivering both the B2C and the procurement platform for B2B and stuff. Everything. So what's the delta X or the transformative you are actually doing it? Because there's somewhere sometime you go and you say I've done most of the stuff. So where is the next set of innovation you're driving in the state? What is happening in Andhra Pradesh? Do you want to actually share something with us which is leading to a service delivery enhancement and increase?
Sure. Thank you for the question. I think last time we talked about the pioneering idea that our Honorable CM Garu had, which is village and ward secretariats.
Oh, yes.
So to make sure that we take government to the doorstep of people, approximately 2,000 households across the rural as well as urban areas had the village and ward secretariats. I think we have a total about a little over 15,000 of these things, where government functionaries to provide the last mile functionality and service are serving the citizens, so they don't have to be talked about at the beginning of this thing where respected secretary was talking about how we don't want citizens to come to the government. So the concept is the same thing. We've talked about how the services were digitized, and approximately 500 or so G2C services, or the citizens are able to avail of them by going to their village or ward secretariat and making a request. The process is digitized, they are getting the services, and to make sure that the infrastructure is provided. Most of these places have broadband internet, but also the state government has embarked, I think, a year or two ago on a fiber broadband to every village initiative. I think it's partially supported by the central government as well. And that is in the works to be completed, I think, next year. So the villages that do not currently have fiber broadband will have that. And as you know, the key is data, and broadband connectivity is another infrastructure must have before we can do anything digital. So the village and ward secretariats, they have government provided computers, printers, and biometric devices for use by the functionaries to serve the citizens. This was started off, the launch was October 2nd of 2019. So we are well on our way. During the pandemic, this infrastructure and the functionaries that are working in there were able to provide citizen services without a lot of or a major hiccup. The innovation I'm going to be talking about now is expanding upon this. The other idea, as you know, Andhra Pradesh is, we talk about digital and how it's at the forefront of IT, which is true, and we are proud of that, especially as the undivided Andhra Pradesh state. It certainly was the case. And we want to make sure it continues to be so, along with our sister state, Telangana. But primarily, it's an agricultural state. So is India, obviously. So what we have done is taken this innovation to the agriculture sector. So similarly, along the lines of the village and ward secretariat, there are approximately 10,000 Raitu Bharosa Kendra, so farmer supporting centers established in the villages. And each of them have agriculture assistants and horticulture assistant, where it's appropriate, aquaculture, these kind of functionaries to support. So what we have done is a unified agri-tech platform that is going live this month by June, early July. The platform is going live. We've heard, at least I've grown up talking about farm to table, how consumers want fresh food and ingredients. So here the concept is seed to fork. So we start with soil preparation, planning what needs to be planted, what's in demand, what could give the farmers good return on their investment. And so seed to fork all the way, input materials, seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, giving them advisories during the harvest, prior to the harvest, advisories on how to take care of the plants. Then post-harvest support for marketing and selling it, warehousing, bank loans, insurance, the whole 9 yards. So we want to make sure technology is available to help the farmers with everything they do. And we believe that this is going to be very critical across the board to other states as well. Not necessarily agriculture states, but if you think about it, most states have a significant level of agriculture as part of their GDP. So it should come in handy. And some of the technologies, for example, farmers look at some new pest. All they need to do is take a picture and it's uploaded to the central server. An artificial intelligence machine learning solution is going to be comparing these things. And there are knowledge centers from various agriculture universities and institutes within them that provides expertise. And using technology, they can compare what are these things and what's the solution to them. If it's a pesticide, what should be used? Same thing with crop diseases. Looking at pictures, wilting leaves or unexpected change in color, what have you. Compare and provide diagnosis as well as solutions to the farmers. So this level of innovation, weather data is the other thing before I forget. knowing what it's going to be, we have an MOU with ISRO. So ISRO provides weather data 3 months out with a fair degree of accuracy. So knowing what the weather is going to be, what the rainfall is going to be, it helps farmers plan appropriately. And for the state agriculture department and the officers that run the department and support the farmers, what should be done, what would be appropriate, and then the cost savings. If we know that there's going to be either average or above average rainfall, there doesn't need to be the amount of electricity sent to farmers for pumps like groundwater irrigation. Agricultural labs are integrated to the solution, where soil testing, soil moisture content. So all these factors are input to the platform, and it's supposed to provide insights to the farmers. So they don't use too much fertilizer, which is again a problem. So they don't need to use too much electricity. Trying to conserve resources and get an optimal results, then post-harvest support them with sales. So this is the new initiative. Just thinking, a lot of us come from farming background. Either us or our parents or grandparents have been farmers. So it's really, it gives immense pleasure to look at. We are able to use high tech. IoT devices is the other thing. You know, there are thousands of these devices across the state in different locations. They provide data on various factors, weather factors or soil factors or whatever is happening across. So looking at all this information and being able to process this information, generate insights, and use that information and knowledge to support farmers in an agriculture state and an agriculture country. That's the neat thing that's going on in our state now. And in a month or two, we should have data start as the farmers are using it, and the village level functionaries are able to collect data and input into the system. As soon as it goes live, we're very excited to look at what the data that's coming in and see what we can get out of that, and take agriculture to the next level, modernize it, so to say.
Fantastic. This is great, because and more so ever after pandemic, I think a lot of startups, or just before the pandemic also, a lot of startups actually started focusing on agriculture. Agri-tech is happening to be one of the biggest initiatives across. I'll come to you, Mr. Anir, and thank you for joining us. I know you have been doing, and in your introduction, you said you'll not touch upon the digital part of it, but the enabling other process and the areas which support the entire innovation. So I don't want to actually let everyone wait for the suspense, and I want this to be broken. So please tell us what is that is helping transform the Bangladesh e-governance playbook into reality.
Thank you, Mr. Murty. Can you hear me?
Yes, Crystal. Thank you.
Wonderful. So it's actually an honor to be here with all the distinguished panelists talking about the wave of the future, ML and artificial intelligence and deep learning, and how that is really helping us. I'll talk about a couple of examples from the COVID time, because as we have all talked about how COVID has really accelerated the digital transformation, because the world suddenly became all digital, and people who could access the digital means were able to access the services, and the people who could not access the digital means were left behind. So let me talk from that perspective first, and then I'll also talk about the background that has gone into making some of these things happen during COVID. So one example is from the courts, our court system. The court system was completely shut down at the height of the pandemic last year. So during the months of May, June, July, the courts were completely shut down. But what we saw was a lot of overcrowding in prison was happening. We already had overcrowded prisons. And because the bail hearing could not be done, no bail was actually posted. So a lot of people could actually leave on bail, but since no bail hearing was done, they could not. So the prisons kept getting overcrowded, and this was a very dangerous situation in a COVID timeframe. So what we did was, in about 12 days, we repurposed technologies that was used in the executive, not in judiciary, and also connected video conferencing. So not very advanced technologies, but very simple technology that were already in the hands of the executive, but not in the judiciary. And justices in Supreme Court and judges in the lower courts started holding bail hearing. And the result was that in about 2 months, we were able to reduce overcrowding in prison by about 12%. So this is a direct result of how perhaps even existing technology, not even the advanced ones that we talked about, the fourth industrial revolution type of things that Mr. Jayesh Ranjan talked about, just using very simple technology, how we were able to address a very important challenge within the government. And what that has done is really set the foundation for transformation of the entire judiciary. We've been trying to work with the Supreme Court for the last 5 or 6 years from the Prime Minister's office to transform judiciary to a more digital judiciary. So we were able to do some work in terms of posting what are called cause lists, hearing dates and all that electronically, so that you can actually access the very non-transparent database within the judiciary through electronic means. So some work was done, but this actually catapulted us towards an understanding that digital really helps. So what that has done is the foundation has been set. The Prime Minister and the Chief Justice have discussed this, and now we have a fairly large project that will go on for the next 3 years to transform all the 2,000 courts in the country towards the digital court system. So that's a transformational thinking that has gone into this. Let me talk about another example. We have a national helpline called 333, which we launched in 2018. And 333 was primarily used for, when we launched it 3 years ago, was primarily used for providing people with information about different government services. So what do I go to get my national ID, my address change? How do I get a driving license? How much does it cost? What documents do I need? My land records, what is the fee for a land record? So things like that. So information delivery. Because as much as we have progressed in terms of internet use in the last 12 years, since the Digital Bangladesh agenda was announced by the Honorable Prime Minister at the end of 2008, we still have very large pockets of digital exclusion. So the internet use has gone from less than 1% to about 65% in the last 12 years, but we're still seeing a lot of people not able to access internet. So this phone line really was very helpful for people to get information. What we saw in the 2019 timeframe was that this tool, this 333 hotline, was not only used for information, but was used for grievance redressal. So people would call in and would report, for instance, child marriages. So thousands of child marriages were addressed when calls would come in, and we would forward these calls to the local administrator. So it sort of morphed into it in an organic way. During COVID, we repurposed it again to make it into a health line. So this became the primary way to access medical services, medical consultation with doctors. So we announced a call to action, and about 4,500 doctors joined this line in about 2 weeks. And we were able to do an Uber-like doctor consultation. So when doctors were free and they had ways to provide free consultation, so they would actually log in for, let's say, 2 hours, 5 hours, whatever time they had on a day. And we had thousands of doctors at any given moment, and people would call in. So we saw millions of calls, about 4.7 million calls come in and get help in terms of medical consultation during height of the pandemic, because the medical facilities were closed or partially closed and not very accessible. Even our community level medical facilities. So people were calling in and getting prescriptions online as well. So 333, a very simple old style technology, became much more useful for health consultation. We then started looking at machine learning and artificial intelligence to mine this information that was coming in. So people would call in and they would actually report their symptoms in an IVR system that we set up in 333. Because we did not have enough RT-PCR labs in the country. So at the beginning of the pandemic, in March, April timeframe of last year, I'm talking about 2020, we had only one RT-PCR lab in a country of 165 million people. But we needed to know whether disease was progressing. So people would call into 333 and would report their symptoms. An IVR system would capture that. And we had a lot of data compression and noise reduction capacity that we developed with the telcos to understand how much of this is accurate and how much of this actually was noise. And we were able to detect the disease progression 7 to 10 days ahead of any testing was done in that area. And that was helpful for us to understand where the health intervention priorities could be taken in terms of intensifying ICUs, intensifying medical help, oxygen in those areas. So that was very helpful. So we had about 2 million calls that actually were analyzed to understand where the disease progression was happening. We use the same service, 333, for emergency food delivery. We announced emergency food delivery, but we didn't know where the need was accurately. So we had people calling into this line, and the calls were verified using the local administrators. And tens of thousands of food deliveries happened during the height of the pandemic. And it's actually happening now because we are in the second wave, in the middle of the second wave. The country has been in lockdown or partial lockdown, depending on locations, since the end of March 2021. So for the last 2.5 months or so, we've been in different stages of lockdown in different parts of the country. So we need to deliver food to impoverished families. Some of them have become the so-called new poor because they've lost their daily jobs on which they depended for their daily consumption. So the emergency food delivery was again routed to the 333. We also used 333 for e-commerce. We are calling it the P-commerce, the phone commerce, because a lot of people don't have access to internet, nor they sometimes don't have the right affordability, because internet is expensive in some parts of the country and beyond the means of common people's affordability. So they would call into this 333 line because it's free of charge. We made it free of charge in the beginning of the pandemic, and they would actually order food. So this is an e-commerce service done through phone. And again, about 100 different e-commerce companies across the country have banded together to provide this service across the entire country in the rural areas where e-commerce was completely non-existent. So this is an example of how 333 has been continuously repurposed, using advanced technologies in the background, using infrastructure that was public-private partnership, and using unprecedented collaboration across government departments such as health, such as commerce, such as food delivery, such as social safety nets, in one cohesive platform that the citizens could use from anywhere in the country. Now, what is really happening behind the scenes, the non-digital part of it? So I talked about the digital part, some of the older technologies.
I have another just 10 minutes left in the workshop, so I will actually ask you a question, come back and ask you a question. So if you can allow me to ask questions, so because there's only 10 minutes left for the thing. Sorry for interjecting in between. So I'll come back to you again. In the first, Manoj, I'll come back to you, and I'm coming back to you, and you spoke about the core infrastructure. On top of the core infrastructure, you have been one of the states who have actually been now given a lot of acknowledgement across the globe for how you manage the disasters, the cyclonic. Is the technology playing any role? And I'm asking this as a quick question, so because we have 10 minutes, so if we can have 1 or 2 minutes of answers, and then I'll move on and close this session to give the Honorable Minister a chance to speak.
Absolutely. In fact, technology has helped a great deal for us to manage the last 4 or 5 major cyclones that we have faced. You know that in the last, I think, 10 years, we have faced 12 cyclones. And
Yes.
70% of the India's cyclones are dealt in my state. So that is that is a fact. That is a fact. So therefore, we had no other option but to equip ourselves to deal with this. In terms of communication, which becomes the most important part in management of cyclone, primarily because we put a focus on every life is important, every life needs to be safe. So how do you save lives? We know that no matter what you do, people do stay in the low-lying areas near the seashores, and they are very vulnerable during cyclone times. So we evacuate a large number of population from those areas from where the cyclone is to impact largely. And to do that, one, we do acknowledge the role of IMD, the Meteorological Department of Government of India, who is now, because of technology, are able to predict the course of the cyclone, maybe 48 hours or 24 hours before the cyclone actually makes a landfall. And it is more or less very accurate. And once we have that, we deploy a lot of technologies in order to reach out to people, be it a basic technology like a mic announcement or a broadcast messaging which doesn't depend on cellular networks. It goes to everyone. SMSs goes to everyone. And these technologies we don't only use during cyclones. Even the state, I think Andhra, Telangana would be also similarly facing the consequences of very high level of lightning and casualty and death from lightning. We get data on lightning predictions and we SMS and broadcast messages directly to people to be alert and not to move out. And we have saved thousands of lives by deploying this technology. So technology is a great enabler for any kind of a situation because we don't have time to go through the normal pace. So if you are restless, as you said in your initial remarks, then you have to be restless and accept technologies and bring technology so that it helps people.
Thank you so much, Manoj. Jayesh Garu, I'll coming to you. You spoke about transportation, so I just wanted to little bit extend it to multimodal transportation because I think Hyderabad is one of the cities in India which has been blessed with the multimodal transportation, metro, train, and everyone. All the is there something which you are working on the mobility as a service model on the app-based transportation?
Yes, so while there is a national intent to have a common mobility card, we have also started working on it. And our model is beyond mobility. In fact, we have examples of countries like Singapore, the UK, etc., where the transportation card can also be used in, let us say, grocery stores and for paying various other kinds of utilities, etc. It in some ways replaces your debit card. So we are working on that model, and the kind of the concept note has been readied. We have consulted some industry stakeholders, and very shortly we'll be calling for the RFP for that particular purpose. So we do hope that some of the best technology use cases the world over can be brought to India and showcased in Telangana in the first instance.
Thank you, Jayesh Garu. Sorry, I'm going very quick on the question answers. Vidyasagar Garu, you spoke about Gram village and the wards. Then you spoke about the agriculture. Now the other part of the social sector is healthcare and education. So is there anything around that in the rural areas or the connected areas that you are actually delivering?
Yes, there is. One advantage as well as the challenge with a young, dynamic chief minister like Honorable CM YS Jagannath Reddy Garu is the pace at which he is unfurling various schemes for taking the state forward. So on the healthcare side, COVID has been a disruptor, but at the same time, it's utilizing a lot of technology input to come up with solutions for the citizens. One of the projects that we had envisioned last year, just before COVID hit, was the electronic medical record system. So as you're aware, it's a fairly common thing in the West. I'm in the US right now visiting my family. You have your records. It's easy to move from one doctor to the other or one hospital to the other. And when you go there, they can pull your records. There's no need to carry bundles or copies of files and stuff. So that's the initiative we had looked at CDAC and some of the other organizations also have some ready-made solutions that are implemented in different states. So we were taking a look at those things, as well as some of the private providers from Western countries where this is a fairly mature technology. The other thing you said is the education. So there are several things, I won't call them irons in the fire, but ideas for providing two things. One is remote education. So if kids are not able to come to school, or students are not able to come to colleges, how do we make sure that they are taught properly and without losing a lot of the tools that are available to the teachers that they would do in the in-person classrooms? Also, digital divide is a real problem. And we say, yeah, you can go to class online. Well, what if the students don't have whatever it takes to go online, right? So earlier I mentioned about the broadband to all villages. So the concept is, once we get broadband to all villages, we want to make sure that the individual homes have broadband connectivity, as well as each village where the broadband connection is terminating is going to have digital libraries. This is the other concept Chief Minister Garu has asked us to work on, and it's being funded to build digital libraries with access to desktops or laptop computers and internet, where students can actually access study material and continue with their education. So if you're not able to attend college or university and you have to go to your native village and you don't have what it takes to get online, here is going to be the government facility that gives you those things. And one other thing is, students are being, I'm not quite sure whether it's a free or a subsidized access to laptops from 9th standard onwards. So 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and then undergrad degree holders. The government is making plans to provide laptops to these students. So trying to bridge the digital divide on the education system, and as I mentioned, what's going on in the healthcare system. So again, exciting times. I mean, we make the best of the bad situation. Whatever pandemic brought to us, the solutions that we create for that should be useful to take us to the next level across the board in governance.
Thank you, Vidyasagar. Mr. Chowdhury, I'm coming back to you. I'm sorry I interjected in between last time. So another 2 minutes. I know it's not sufficient for you to actually describe about the non-digital, but if a snippet, a highlight, you can actually share with us on your non-digital initiatives.
Well, the non-digital is actually supporting the digital. So the digital is the front, but the non-digital plumbing is really necessary. So I'll talk about maybe just two things. One is setting up of what we call the digital centers. These are actually physical things in all our local government institutions. So 4,500 what are equivalent of panchayats in India, called union councils. And from the very beginning of the digital Bangladesh journey, we actually set these up. First in a few locations and then across the entire country. Now we have about 7,000 such locations, which are hosted in government offices, local government offices, but are operated by local entrepreneurs, micro entrepreneurs. So they're not salaried by the government. They actually get a small fee per service that they sell. So they sell government services such as land, driving license, passport. They also sell private sector services such as banking, e-commerce, and so on and so forth. And this has become a bridge between the analog citizens and the digital world of service delivery of the government. So that's one plumbing bridge that we have set up, and that's been extremely useful. And that has saved citizens about $8 billion in the last 10 years. The second thing that I would talk about is a concept that we are nurturing within the government since the very beginning of the journey of digital Bangladesh for the last 12 years. Is called govpreneurship. So entrepreneurship within the government. So we want to create a cadre of civil servants who are actually entrepreneurs within the government. And that's a ecosystem that we are developing, leaders within the government who behave like entrepreneurs. They identify problems, they build coalitions, they raise their own funds, they develop minimal viable products, and then they scale that up with additional funding. And they partner with the private sector a lot in doing this. So a lot of the technologies and a lot of the initiative that I talked about earlier in health, in digital courts, in education also, so is done through a lot of these governors. and they go through a training process that we call empathy training. So that's a design thinking process where they really understand the citizens' problems, identify viable solutions, co-design the solutions with citizens, develop an MVP, and then scale that up. So it's an approach that we have taken from the private sector, and then is instilling within the government and developing a culture of entrepreneurship and innovation using digital technologies, but also doing a lot of collaboration between public and private sector. Thank you.
Thank you. So you are actually in effect killing the removing the jobs of all the consultants. So I have to be very wary of you. Okay. So thank you all the panelists, and I heard from transportation to agriculture to village development. It's really great judicial, and I really like the way in which the design thinking has been inculcated in the way in which the problem solving for the civic issues has been done. So extremely great. So I think I thank everyone, all the panelists. I now want to hand over to Honorable Minister for Electronics and Communication, ShriTusharkanti ji. First of all, I want to congratulate you. The state has been doing great in not just one parameter, multiple parameters, whether it is to do managing the disaster, whether to manage the COVID, or the smart cities also. I would like to actually say that also. Very proud of that also. And over to you, and please share your thoughts and your vision of the state.
Thank you. All esteemed guests and panelists in this inaugural session of Digital Transformation Conclave, Dr. Rajeshri Datta Kumar, Executive Director, Punjab Chamber of Commerce, Dr. Rajendra Kumar, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Electronics and IT, Government of India, esteemed Moderator NSN Murty, Partner PwC, respected Manoj Kumar Mishra, Secretary Electronics and IT Department Odisha, respected Jayesh Ranjan, Principal Secretary Electronics and IT, also Industries Telangana, respected Anir Chowdhury, Policy Advisor A2I, Innovate for All, Government of Bangladesh, respected Vidyasagar Reddy, IT Advisor to Government of Andhra Pradesh, and others connected through this virtual platform. A very good morning, one and all. Electronics and IT Department of Odisha has taken a lot of initiative in emerging technologies as part of digital transformation to handle this pandemic. Also roll out citizen services under the 5T program, and also invest in research and development, improve governance, and build digital infrastructure. As part of digital transformation under the leadership of our Honorable CM, Sri Naveen Patnaik ji, a single window online unified citizen portal called Odisha One has also made by the government, offering a wide more than 500 services. This department has developed a massive network of over 3,000 more Seva Kendras and are planning to set up 7,000 such centers across Odisha with at least one in each Gram Panchayat. People can visit these kendras or kiosks for payment of electricity and water bills, receiving necessary certificates, payment of taxes, and availing various other public services. Odisha One and Mo Seva Kendra also integrated to provide test results of COVID-19, vaccination certificate, and availability of vaccination at different centers. Mo Sarkar is a move under the 5T governance framework, which represents the four pillars of transparency, teamwork, technology, and time-bound action, ultimately leading to transformation. Odisha state government has rolled out Mo Sarkar, or known as My Government initiative, for strengthening our objective of responsive and people-centric administration. Around 240 services of 27 government departments have already been covered under Mo Sarkar. Every month, on an average, more than 1 lakh calls are handled by the outbound call centers, and over 8,000 calls are made directly to the citizens by senior government officials and ministers as well. The state's COVID-19 dashboard has offered advanced visualization of COVID-related key performance indicators or KPIs, such as transmission of infection, demographic and geographic profiling, infrastructure availability, and population dynamics, like existing population density and the count of inbound migrant workers. Electronics and IT department has designed and implemented private government of Odisha cloud known as GOO cloud infrastructure using cloud computing technologies like VMware with NSX in Odisha state data center. The focus of this initiative is to accelerate delivery of e-services in the state while optimizing ICT spending of this government. This will ensure optimum utilization of the infrastructure and speed up the development and deployment of e-governance applications. A state more than 150 applications hosted on cloud supporting department across this state 24 by 7. The Odisha state dashboard will cover with 5 flagship interventions, that is COVID, National Food Security Act or state food security schemes, Odisha School Education Program Authority, Kalia, which is related to dispensation of incentives to the farmers, and 5T, currently known as I mean the including the transformation or other 4 pillars. Then COVID analytics, it facilitates identification of infection spread across state, intra-interstate benchmarking, insights into testing and infrastructure requirement for infected patients. Then connecting citizens to internet. In the pursuit of its ambition of internet for all, the government of Odisha is gearing up to provide high-speed internet connectivity to all gram panchayats. This infrastructure will bring all the gram panchayats within the scope of SWAN or state wide area network. Government is provided with Wi-Fi activities at the main activity points of gram panchayat so that all government offices including the schools, medicals and banks can also access the connectivity. So far, 22,541 kilometers of optical fiber cable has been laid against the target of 27,610 kilometers. Some of the use cases where emerging technology used as a part of mentioned above. Use of IoT in stockyard management. This enables faster throughput and evacuation of ore, resulting in higher productivity and revenue for mines. Then use of geospatial technology for land intelligence. This enables detection of unauthorized encroachment of government lands. Odisha's ICT policy, which was valid till 2020, is being revised. The government plans to support expansion of existing IT industries, enable new investments in IT and electronic system design and manufacturing, that is ESDM domain, via its new futuristic ICT policy. The state will have separate and focused policy documentation on ESDM, BPO, and data center or parks this year. Besides, the government will dish out fiscal and non-fiscal incentives for the new investors that are linked to both employment and investments. Electronics manufacturing cluster straddling over 207 acres on the periphery of Bhubaneswar, which offers plug and play space for investors in the ESDM sector. E&IT department has dedicated cyber security team called Computer Emergency Response Team Odisha or SAT-O to safeguard government websites and applications from cyber attacks. We are establishing of a state-of-the-art security operation center, that is SOC, capacity building of of officials of the government departments dealing with IT services at various level and other cyber security related activities under SATO. The team will work in close coordination with SAT India and state level security monitoring committee and take proactive measures to raise awareness among stakeholders concerned regarding IT security. The Odisha government has partnered STPI for setting up a center of excellence in Bhubaneswar on emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, analytics, and cyber security. The state government has also helped develop a virtual and augmented reality center of excellence, that is VARC COA, at IIT Bhubaneswar to foster research and innovation. The state electronics and IT department is also establishing a state-of-the-art security operation center, that is SOC, and this will keep government websites and web applications immune from cyber attacks as well. Lastly, in the coming years, Odisha aspires to feature prominently on the global map as a preferred IT destination and be recognized as a creator of benchmark technology-based products, solutions, and services for the world. We aim to advance Industry 4.0 by building partnerships for applying emerging technologies such as cybersecurity, data analytics, mobile technology or 5G, IoT, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. And most importantly, the state plans to continue its investment in digital infrastructure and extensive adoption of IT for transforming quality of citizens' lives in a transparent and cost-efficient manner. Thank you. Thank you all.
Innocent sir, you're on mute, I guess.
No, I say thank you, Tusharkanti ji. Rachi, you may want to take the panel and the discussion forward for the next.
Next 10 minutes. Perhaps we can have one more question. If you can just ask this last question that can be asked.
So we have more time for question answer.
Yeah,
That's what you're saying?
I think yes, 8 minutes we have. Perhaps
too short
one quick
time.
question.
Yeah,
Okay.
too short time. It's too short a time. Actually, I don't think even Jayesh said that. So I will actually say that I think we had a good conversation. I think we have concluded that session. So it's not good to actually restart it. So let's actually give 6 minutes extra time to everyone to have a breather. Online
Yes.
actually takes a lot of toll. Okay.
Yes. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Murty, for having this wonderful discussion. And the discussion was a very end-to-end kind of a discussion that we have had. We touched upon almost all aspects of digital transformation. Right? We talked about, without touching upon the digital part of it, he has talked about the transformation part of it, and it would not have been possible the kind of scale that the country has, and it's a river-driven country. So it was not possible for them also to do without digital. So it's been basically a digital transformation, but transformation was at the head of it. And Manoj, sir, you are right. Odisha receives such cyclone crisis almost every year, I believe, and it's not easy when you have your fishermen in the sea and reaching out to them through the information and communication technology. So you have to use the basics as well as the most advanced ones. And of course, as you have talked about, touching upon the infrastructure part of it, which is very important. And of course, there's so much that we can learn from each states. And Jayesh sir has talked about, he's given such wonderful examples of AI, machine learning, deep learning, and the automation. And I think the face, face, like, face lightness detection was something that was very interesting. And I think these are technologies that we should be using across all segments. Transportation can be one segment, perhaps we have to replicate it across all the sectors. And of course, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, they lead us. And Vidyasagar sir, you talked about your initiatives for the agriculture and how agriculture sector and how agri-tech is a segment that we should actually look at. And NSN has also reiterated it that this is one sector that we should actually take a deep look at and focus on also. India being primarily being the agriculture country, and how can we empower our local administrators and the local institutions, the local bodies that we have, and perhaps there's so much that we can exchange. And Tushar sir, thank you so much for joining us. The passion with which you patiently heard all of us and attended the session, and the wonderful work that Odisha is doing. And if we have a minister like you across all geographies, I'm sure citizens of India, they have a better life to witness. And in essence, sir, our go-to person always, thank you so much for joining us and for doing this wonderful discussion. And you have been able to bring the best out of all our panelists. And thank you so much. And I thank the team GovConnect for having me here. For me, it's a learning lesson, and it's a workshop that I get to attend every time. It's so much of limelight. So thank you so much, Fahim and team, for having me here. I thank all of you and look forward to again meet all of you at some other forum. Thank you so much, sir. All of you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Minister.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
sir.
Bye-bye.